Face.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you today?
Good, good. I've had a busy morning already. I was out with the pickleball ladies.
Oh, did you do the pickleball again?
Yes.
We were talking about
I'm
pickleball this
slowly getting
weekend.
a little better.
What did you say? You're getting a little better?
Yeah.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. I asked Cheryl about pickleball the other day and some other friends, and they were like, "Yeah, you guys want to learn pickleball? We can do it." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. All right. Let's see. Let's see if we can do it." I mean, I do have the paddles. I did play before, but I don't know. I've
Well,
heard those stories about those
I'm
injuries.
I'm very much in a beginners group, so this is where it's not aggressive or competitive play. It's for fun and gets exercise and community and all of that.
Oh, very, very nice. The people that we were talking to are very competitive.
I got that impression.
Yeah. All right, awesome.
Uh,
Let's get started. We're doing the Q&A today, huh?
yes, Thursday morning Q&A.
All right, perfect. All right. So, what's today's question?
Can you give me some tips on how I can start to reframe my story?
Yes, Lord, yes, I can.
Why, thank you, Maria. So I think this is
Can you give me some tips about
I can
reframing
give
my
you some
story?
tips. I can definitely give you some tips.
All right,
Excellent.
awesome. So I guess the first thing is, what does that mean, right? Reframing your story.
Yeah. Changing, it's the ability that we all have to change the way we perceive and tell our personal experiences. And, we can focus on and make it a tale of woe, or we can focus on something more empowering and positive and have a more constructive narrative for ourselves.
Yeah, and one thing that I want to say about this is that we can do this at any stage of our lives. We can be in our 70s or our 80s or 60s, whatever, our 50s. We can change. It doesn't mean that because of our age that we can't change our perspectives and our perceptions of ourselves. I think it's even, if you ask the question, it's important that you start to answer that question, right? If you're looking to the fact that maybe you're not happy or you feel stuck, this is a perfect time for you to ask, how am I dragging my past around, right? What do I need to reframe?
Yeah, there's no expiration date for
Yes.
creating positive change in our lives. So it's never too late. If you are breathing, it is never too late to make a change and move in a more fulfilling direction. You know, yeah.
Hmm.
I think that's important to point out that so many people sometimes they feel stuck in the role that they've been playing or the labels that they're carrying around or the perceptions that others have put on them,
Right.
you know? And so uh, I think one place to start is to ask yourself some questions.
Definitely.
You know, something happened. There was a challenge, there was a circumstance, right?
Right.
Then ask yourself, what have I learned from this experience? Like, what is the gain from this experience?
Right. Right. We tend to like just replay the experience in, virtually the same. It doesn't always play out exactly the same, but the sensations are always the same, right? The emotional attachment is always the same. And when you ask that question, what have I learned from this experience, your emotional state changes and you can see it from a different angle. That's a wonderful question because it shifts your emotional state so that your perspectives or your perception really can change.
Yeah.
And see, I think there's how has this experience made me stronger or more resilient, right? That's another question that we can ask ourselves. You know, I know people like to say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I think that's even a song. But it, it, it does diminish a part of us, things that happen. And those diminished parts of us are the parts of us that we need to take a look at and bring to the forefront and basically um, resolve that incident or whatever happened in the past. And obviously, that first question is that's such a super question to start asking immediately from when you start to look at your parts. Are you thinking about something, Lotus?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Oh, good. Okay, because my connection is acting a little funky on this side.
Okay.
Um, I think I'm back. Great. So, yeah, we can see the circumstances, the challenges that we've overcome as ways that we have grown and become stronger, right? It's a different viewpoint. Another question to ask is what new opportunities have arisen as a result of this challenge? Because when you go through challenges, it it can often change the playing field, and we can view challenges as opportunities, right?
Right. Right.
Not just things happening to us, but things happening for us, an opportunity. And when we overcome these challenges, we do get stronger, we become more resilient. The next time something similar happens uh, in our life, we're gonna we're gonna have more resources and we're gonna be able to respond differently. So I think it's important to reframe how we look at challenges, whether it's something that we're going through right now, or it's something that we went through in the past.
Right. Definitely. And then another question we can ask is how can I use my experience to help others? Right. And I think that, especially in family, when you're an older sibling, when something happens to you, you you take your younger sibling under the wing and say, hey, listen, this is what happens when this happens. And that doesn't stop. It doesn't stop with just our family. It also in our community, and it can be almost anything. I mean, you can help someone on with their phone, on the computer, at the ATM, at the grocery store. You bring value especially when somebody doesn't have experience. Your helping them is tremendous because when you help someone, then that someone is now skilled and they can help someone else because you know we're really a melting pot. And we all have, and it's not just that we have immigration or people from different parts of the country. Even in our own cities we have you know different skill sets that we haven't been exposed to. I mean, if you're from Florida and you've never been out of Florida, you have no idea how to ski, you know. And I mean, I know that's a crazy example, but that's how it is, depending on where you're from. You don't have experience. So when somebody asks you something, you know, be open to the fact that they just haven't had that experience and you do, and share it. share it with grace, it's of value.
Yeah. Yeah. And, um, looking for the positive outcomes that come from a situation. Sometimes, in life, things shift and change, and then you're confronted with something that is unexpected. But then it causes you to respond in a way that leads you down a different path and creates greater opportunities for you. I mean, I can remember in my own life just, you know, being confronted by obstacles that was like, oh my gosh, it felt kind of insurmountable. But then I worked my way through it, and I ended up in a better place, even though it was challenging.
Hmm.
So, it's like looking for the silver lining in the challenge, like looking back on the situation and be like, you know what? If that hadn't happened, then I wouldn't have done X, Y, and Z. And
Right,
this is
right,
so much for the better.
exactly, exactly. So another question that we have here. Oh, you just answered that, right? What positive outcomes have come from this situation?
Yeah, that was the one that I rephrased it.
Oh, you're crazy. So All right, so let me jump to the next one. How can I view this experience as a stepping stone rather than a setback? And I think that you partially answered that one as well, you know, because the thing is that if you can look back at an experience and say what did I gain from it, then you're leveraging right there. You start to leverage your experience, which is also which gets you into the trajectory that's going up instead of keeping you stuck in that same story, because now you have resources. You've resourced yourself instead of victimized yourself, because victimhood is something that there's something happens and you can become victimized, but victimhood is an inside job, right? We're the ones that perceive and continue to tell that story. And I'm not talking about major, incidences where you should get professional help. I'm talking about minor things where someone disrespected you, or someone ignored you, or someone didn't follow through, somebody broke a promise. I'm not speaking about traumatic events. I'm speaking about everyday events that happen to us and that we've, possibly have blown them out of proportion. And we've blown them out of proportion if the story keeps going in our head, even after, years of this having happened, right? Holding on to a grudge, as everyone knows, is poisonous. But as you had said before, when you reframe and you resource that event, now you're going up. Now you're like, okay, so I have more skills than what I've realized. I know more than what I considered that I knew. And it's because of what happened, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a little repetitive. What skills or strengths have I developed because of this experience? But these are various examples of questions that we can ask ourselves to do that excavating and figuring out, you know, where the benefit is. How can I change the poison into medicine? And it's like, so different questions will lead to a different response, but it's work well worth doing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because, and I say this often, and it speaks to mindfulness and awareness as well, is that when you can start to shift your story, your perceptions shift, and that allows your perspectives to shift. And when your perspective starts to shift, you will see and act differently than you did before, because that awareness that you now have allows you to see things differently. It's not that the landscape has changed, it's that the way you see the landscape has changed. And so that's a true, it's so beautiful when you can see something differently and be grateful for it. You know, it just, I mean, at the end of the day, right? It's about our happiness, right? And the happiness that we give others. It's about living the best life that we can. And the best life that we can is based on our internal feelings, our gratitude, our love, our self compassion, and things of that nature. And this is something, this reframing of the stories is something that we do for ourselves so that we can live a greater life.
Yeah. You've reminded me of a Wayne Dyer quote, change the way you look at things and the things you look at change. Now, I probably read that quote, one of his books in my early 20s, and I didn't really quite get it then.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, I was taking the information in, but being able to actually implement that, to actually reframe and change your perspective about yourself in situations, that's so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
That is a gift I would love to give everyone, because so frequently we hold ourselves back just because we've been, other people or ourselves, we've put ourselves into a box, and we're limiting what we believe is, what we're capable of, what's possible for us, because we're stuck in this box. And that's, I think, a big part of this reframing
Mm-hmm.
is breaking free of those limitations of how we see ourselves, and also how others have perceived us, and just accepting those reflections from others. Um,
Right. Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. I would add that when we do this kind of work, if we're journaling and we're not working with a therapist or a coach or a pastor or someone, that we remember that the most important thing to do is to have self compassion, right? We all act or receive information based on the awareness that we had at that moment. And what you're doing is you're adding light to the situation, and you're using your resources, but with compassion, with self-compassion and kindness. Be gentle with yourself when you do these things, because this is this is not a reflection with judgment. This is a reflection with love and compassion for ourselves and for the situation and for the people that were involved in the situation, because people do the best that they can based on their current level of awareness. And let's just face it, when you're stressed and busy and working all the time and you have a ton of responsibility, your awareness is not always at its best.
so true. So I think we have a couple more suggestions for questions that folks can ask themselves. We went off on our separate little tangents here,
Oh,
or
yes.
off together. How can I change my perspective to see this situation in a more positive light? I feel like we touched upon that already.
Right. Okay. And what's the next question?
What aspects of this experience can I be grateful for? And I feel like we've spoken a little bit about that as well. I think you mentioned, I think we both spoke about being able to assess how, you know, there's growth and opportunity in
Mm-hmm.
challenges, and we need to acknowledge that. And, I mean, for me, a gratitude practice is like foundational for me. I mean, if someone wants to start to change their life on their own, without necessarily getting help. Starting a gratitude practice is one of the top things that I would recommend, is just being grateful for, you know, the blessings that you have
Yeah.
right here, right now, today.
Yeah. I mean, especially if you're a person that watches the news. I mean, there's so many things that happen that we have no control of, and we really need to look back and say, my current circumstances, the way that they are, they're still, they still are, things that I can work on and improve. I'm still alive. I still have opportunity to do something, to live a better life and have a better life for my family and my community, right? I always say community. I include work with that, not just your neighborhood or your city.
Yeah. Well, I think we've given people some resources to get started with and work on reframing their story. This is a powerful step that you can take to move yourself forward and, be free from the box of, you know, the perspective that you might be having of yourself based on past events.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So I guess next Thursday we'll answer the one of the other questions that we have, and we'll be back on Tuesday.
Yes.
All right. Have a fantastic early weekend.
Yes, you do.
I know your weekend doesn't really start today, but have a great weekend.
Thank you so much. You as well.